If you've noticed your drains running a little slower than usual, or maybe your toilet makes a strange gurgling sound when you flush it, you probably figured it was just a minor clog. Something you could fix with a plunger or a bottle of drain cleaner. But here's the thing. If your home is more than 20 or 30 years old, there's a very good chance that what you're dealing with isn't a simple clog at all. It's tree roots. And they could be working their way through your sewer line right now, growing thicker every single day. Until one morning you wake up to raw sewage backing up into your basement. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to spot the warning signs before it gets that bad, how to inspect your sewer line yourself, and what your real options are for clearing roots and protecting your pipes long term. Plus, stick around to the end because I'll share a cheap prevention trick that can keep roots out of your line for years. Let's get into it. Tree root intrusion is the #1 cause of sewer line failure in older homes across the country. And I'm not talking about something rare. I've seen it hundreds of times. The good news is that if you catch it early enough, you can usually deal with it without digging up your entire yard or writing a check for $10,000. Once you understand what's actually happening underground and what to look for above ground, you'll be way ahead of most homeowners. So let's start with what's really going on beneath your feet. Here's something most people don't realize. Tree roots don't actually break through healthy solid pipes. What happens is much sneakier than that. Your sewer line, especially if it's made of clay tile, cast iron, or even older Orangeburg pipe, develops tiny cracks and loose joints over the decades. Sometimes it's just natural settling of the soil. Sometimes it's from temperature changes expanding and contracting the pipe season after season. Either way, those little gaps start releasing moisture and nutrients into the surrounding soil. And to a tree root, that's like ringing the dinner bell. Roots are incredibly persistent. They can sense moisture from surprisingly far away, and they'll send out hair-thin feeder roots that find their way into even the smallest crack or joint separation. Once a single root fiber gets inside your pipe, it hits the jackpot. There's a constant supply of water and organic material in there, so that tiny root starts growing. It branches out, thickens up, and before long, you've got what looks like a thick nest of roots filling the inside of your pipe. I've pulled root masses out of sewer lines that were 3 and 4 feet long, packed so tight that almost nothing could get through. Now, the pipes that are most vulnerable are clay tile in Orangeburg. Clay tile was the standard for residential sewer lines from the early 1900s through the 1970s. It's installed in short sections, usually about 2 feet long, with joints every couple of feet. Those joints are the weak points. Orangeburg pipe, which is basically compressed tar paper, was popular from the 1940s through the 1970s, and honestly, it was never great to begin with. If your home was built before 1980, there's a strong chance you have one of these pipe types, and that means you're a prime candidate for root intrusion. Cast iron holds up better. But even cast iron develops cracks and joint failures after 50 or 60 years. PVC is the most resistant, but even PVC joints can separate if the ground shifts enough. The point is, no pipe lasts forever, and roots are patient. So how do you know if roots are already inside your sewer line? There are several warning signs, and I want you to pay close attention, because most homeowners experience at least 2 or 3 of these before they realize what's going on. The first and most common sign is slow drains in multiple fixtures. I'm not talking about one slow sink, which is usually just a local clog. I'm talking about when your kitchen sink, your bathtub, and your basement floor drain all seem sluggish at the same time. That pattern tells you the blockage is downstream, in your main sewer line, not in an individual branch line. The second sign is gurgling sounds. When you flush a toilet and hear a gurgling or bubbling noise coming from a nearby sink or tub drain, that means air is getting trapped and displaced in the line. Roots inside the pipe create partial blockages that trap air pockets, and that air has to go somewhere, so it bubbles up through the nearest fixture. Third, pay attention to your toilet water level. If it fluctuates on its own, sometimes sitting higher than normal and sometimes unusually low, that's a strong indicator of a partial sewer line blockage. The roots act almost like a valve, sometimes letting water pass and sometimes holding it back. Fourth is sewage odor. If you smell that unmistakable rotten egg smell near your floor drains, outside near your cleanout, or even in your yard, that's sewer gas escaping through cracks in the line. Roots don't just grow into the pipe. They also widen the cracks they entered through, which lets gas seep out into the soil and up to the surface. Fifth, look at your yard. If you notice one patch of grass that's noticeably greener and lusher than the rest, especially in a line running from your house towards the street, that grass is getting fertilized by leaking sewage. It sounds unpleasant because it is. And if you see any areas where the ground feels soft or spongy, or where a small sinkhole has formed, that's even more serious. It means the pipe may have collapsed and soil is washing into the line. Sixth, recurring backups. If you clear a clog and it comes back within a few weeks or months, that's roots. A normal clog stays fixed once you clear it. Roots grow back. By the way, if you're finding this advice helpful, you should know it's just a small sample of what I've put into my new book, 100 Old House Fixes That Save You Thousands. It's packed with practical old house fixes that can help you avoid expensive repair bills. To grab your copy, you can scan the QR code on the screen right now, or just use the first link in the description below. All right, let's continue. Now, let's talk about which trees are the biggest troublemakers, because not all trees are created equal when it comes to sewer line damage. The worst offenders have aggressive, water-seeking root systems that spread far and wide. At the top of the list are willow trees. Willows are beautiful, but their roots can extend over 100 feet from the trunk, and they are relentless moisture seekers. If you have a weeping willow anywhere on your property and an older sewer line, I can almost guarantee those roots have found your pipe. Silver maples are another major culprit. They grow fast, their roots stay shallow, and they spread aggressively. Poplars, cottonwoods, and elms are right up there as well. Even certain ornamental shrubs and bushes can cause problems if they're planted close enough to the line. Here's a general rule I use. Most tree roots extend at least as far from the trunk as the tree is tall, and often much farther. So a 40-foot tall silver maple can easily have roots reaching 40 to 60 feet in every direction. If your sewer line runs within that radius, you've got a potential problem. Take a walk around your yard and identify where your sewer line runs. It typically goes in a fairly straight path from where it exits your foundation to the street or to a septic tank. If you see mature trees within 15 to 20 feet of that path, those are your suspects. Once you've identified the warning signs and you suspect roots might be the issue, it's time to do some investigating. And you can actually do quite a bit of this yourself before spending money on a plumber. Start by finding your sewer cleanout. This is a capped pipe, usually 3 or 4 inches in diameter, that sticks up out of the ground somewhere between your house and the street. Some homes have them in the basement or crawl space instead. The cap is usually white PVC or sometimes brass or cast iron on older homes. If you've never located yours, now is the time. Check along the side of your house closest to the street, usually within a few feet of the foundation. Once you find it, you can carefully remove the cap. And I do mean carefully. If the line is backed up, there may be pressure behind that cap. Use a pipe wrench and loosen it slowly. Stand to the side, not directly over it. If water rushes out when you crack the cap, let it drain completely before you look inside. With the cap off, grab a flashlight and look into the pipe. If you can see standing water that's not draining, that confirms a blockage downstream. If you can see root fibers hanging into the pipe from a joint, well, now you know exactly what you're dealing with. For a more thorough inspection, you can rent a drain camera from most equipment rental stores for about $200 to $300 a day. These are waterproof cameras on a flexible cable that you feed into the cleanout. The screen shows you exactly what's inside your pipe in real time. You'll be able to see root masses, cracks, joint separations, bellies where the pipe has sagged, and any other damage. If you're not comfortable doing this yourself, a professional camera inspection typically runs between $150 and $400, depending on your area. Honestly, that's money well spent, because it tells you exactly what you're working with. Now let's talk about actually clearing those roots out. You've got 2 main approaches, mechanical and chemical. And in most cases, I recommend using both. The mechanical approach uses a drain auger with a root cutting head. You can rent a sewer auger, sometimes called a drain snake or root cutter, from any equipment rental place. For a main sewer line, you want a machine that handles 3-inch to 4-inch pipe, with a cutting head designed specifically for roots. The rental usually runs about $75 to $150 per day. Here's how to use it safely. Feed the cable into the cleanout slowly. When you hit the root mass, you'll feel resistance. Let the machine do the work. Don't force it. The cutting head spins and chews through the roots gradually. Pull the cable back periodically to clear the debris off the head, then feed it forward again. Work your way through the entire length of the line if you can. On a typical residential sewer line running 50 to 75 feet to the street, this process might take you an hour or 2. One important safety note: wear heavy gloves and eye protection. These machines have a lot of torque, and if the cable kinks or binds up, it can whip around. Keep your hands away from the spinning cable at all times. If you feel the machine straining hard and the cable isn't advancing, stop and pull it back. Don't try to power through. Once you've mechanically cleared the roots, that's where chemical treatment comes in. Copper sulfate crystals are the traditional go-to. You flush about 2 pounds of copper sulfate crystals down your toilet, usually half a pound at a time over the course of a week or two. The copper sulfate kills the root fibers inside the pipe and discourages regrowth. You can find it at most hardware stores for about $10 to $15 per container. A more modern option is foaming root killer, which contains diclofenac. The foam expands to fill the entire pipe diameter, so it reaches roots that crystals might miss. You pour it into the cleanout or flush it down the toilet according to the directions on the container. It's very effective and usually costs around $20 to $30 per treatment. One thing I want to be clear about: chemical treatments alone will not clear a serious root blockage. Therefore, killing and preventing root growth after you've already cleared the line mechanically. Don't skip the auger and just dump chemicals down the drain. It won't work. And please, whatever you do, don't pour bleach, lye, or acid-based drain cleaners down your sewer line thinking it will kill roots. It won't. It'll just damage your pipe and contaminate the soil. After you've cleared the roots and treated the line chemically, you need to assess the condition of the pipe itself. This is where that camera inspection really pays for itself. Run the camera through again after clearing and look at the pipe walls. What you're trying to determine is whether the pipe is still structurally sound or whether the roots have caused damage that needs repair. If the camera shows clean joints with minor root entry points, but the pipe itself is intact, you're in good shape. Keep up with annual maintenance, and you can get many more years out of that line. If you see one or two joints that are badly cracked or separated, a spot repair might be all you need. A plumber can dig down to just that section and replace the damaged piece. That typically runs between $1,000 and $3,000, depending on depth and location. If the pipe is cracked in multiple places or showing signs of significant deterioration, you might want to consider pipe relining. This is a trenchless technology where a flexible liner coated with epoxy resin is inserted into your existing pipe and inflated. It cures in place and essentially creates a brand new pipe inside the old one. Relining typically costs between $4,000 and $10,000 for a residential line, but you avoid the cost and mess of digging up your yard. Full replacement is the last resort. If the pipe has collapsed or is too far gone for relining, you'll need a new line installed. Traditional excavation runs between $5,000 and $15,000 or more, depending on depth, length, and landscaping. Trenchless pipe bursting, where a new pipe is pulled through while breaking apart the old one, can sometimes reduce that cost and save your yard. Let's talk about some common problems you might run into and how to handle them. First, roots come back within a few months of clearing. This is the most common frustration. The mechanical auger cuts the roots back, but the entry points in the pipe are still there. If you're not following up with chemical treatment, the roots will regrow fast. Commit to treating the line every 6 months to keep regrowth in check. Second, your auger gets stuck. This happens when the cable wraps around a large root mass or catches on a broken piece of pipe. Don't panic. Reverse the machine and slowly pull the cable back while it spins in the opposite direction. If it's truly jammed, you may need professional help to retrieve it. Third, you can't find your cleanout. Older homes sometimes have cleanouts that are buried under soil, mulch, or even a patio. Use your home's plumbing plan if you have one, or follow the main drain line from your basement to the exterior wall and look in that area. A metal detector can sometimes find a buried cast iron or brass cap. Fourth, the camera shows a belly or sag in the pipe. This is a low spot where waste and water collect. Roots love these spots because they stay wet. Unfortunately, a belly usually requires excavation to properly repair. Relining won't fix the sag itself. Fifth, the problem tree belongs to your neighbor. This is tricky. In most jurisdictions, you're responsible for your own sewer lateral, regardless of where the roots come from. You can trim roots on your side of the property line, but the conversation with your neighbor about their tree is one you'll want to have diplomatically. Sixth, the blockage is between the street and your property line. In many municipalities, the homeowner is responsible for the sewer lateral all the way to the main sewer connection at the street. But some cities have programs that help cover repairs in the public right-of-way. Call your local public works department and ask before you start writing checks. Now, for that bonus tip I promised you at the beginning. Here's a simple prevention routine that costs almost nothing and can keep roots out of your sewer line for years. Once a year, in late spring or early summer when roots are most actively growing, flush 2 pounds of copper sulfate crystals down your lowest toilet. Do it in 4 doses of half a pound each, 1 dose per day over 4 days. Do this at night right before bed, so the crystals sit in the line overnight without being diluted by other water use. The copper sulfate creates a zone around the inside of your pipe that's hostile to root growth. It doesn't harm the tree itself because the concentration in the soil is too low to affect the main root system. In addition to that, every 6 months, use a foaming root killer through your cleanout. The foam coats the top of the pipe where roots often enter at the joints, a spot that copper sulfate crystals rolling along the bottom might miss. And here's the landscaping rule. Never plant a tree within 10 feet of your sewer line. Period. If you're putting in new landscaping, choose slow-growing species with compact root systems and keep them well away from any underground utilities. Your sewer line, your water line, and your future self will thank you. Before you go, I want to make sure you know about my new book, 100 Old House Fixes That Save You Thousands. It goes deeper than we can in a single video, with practical fixes, warning signs, and simple steps for older homes. If you want to avoid expensive repair bills before you call a plumber, this book is for you. Just scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the description to get your copy. Thanks for watching. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next one. Take care of that sewer line, folks. A little attention now saves you a whole lot of headache and money down the road. I'll see you in the next one.